She says she would be willing to be unhappy for a whopping 5 to 7 years before getting a divorce.
I like that range. It's a very specific range.
It's true. Dear Shandy. Welcome back to another Dear Shandy Love is Blind recap, listeners. Hello, Andy.
Hello.
How are you today?
I'm good.
Ooh,
Extra good.
Like an 8?
I'm an 8.5.
What?
Because we made it through Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm.
And as I've learned, Thanksgiving is the end of the year. You make it through Thanksgiving, you're done.
That's very American of you.
The rest is gravy.
Canadians celebrate Thanksgiving in October. It's not the end of the year, Andy.
Well, I mean, I always feel like Canadian Thanksgiving is really just American Thanksgiving 2.0.
Is that what you think?
I mean, I feel like it's really, what is Thanksgiving? I mean, Thanksgiving is not like something happened. Most holidays, something happened, or at least mythically something happened. I mean, in America, they make this whole thing where like the natives and the pilgrims got together one day to have a big turkey dinner. I call bullshit on that.
You don't
I don't think that happened. I think they were always at odds. And maybe they did some, what happened at that dinner probably was they swindled them out of Manhattan.
Oh.
Yeah, they bought Manhattan for like $15. What? Yeah, Manhattan cost $15. That was a good time to buy real estate in Manhattan. Like, what did you buy that townhouse for? 1 cent. So anyway, Thanksgiving, really what it is being grateful for the harvest.
Mm-hmm.
That's
before the cold.
Before the winter.
Yeah, before winter.
Back then, winter was
imagine?
no joke. Imagine this. Now people are like, ooh, it's chilly. Like for like 15 minutes, you're cold. It's like, oh my God, when am I going to get warm? Imagine being cold for a whole season.
Yeah,
Deathly
a long
cold.
season, a particularly long season.
You can't get warm.
Oh, it's
You
awful.
light fires, but sometimes it's 20 below zero. The fires don't do anything.
Yeah.
You're cold all the time. You sleep cold. You wake up cold. You eat cold. You go to the bathroom cold. You shower. You don't shower. You just don't shower for a whole season.
I gotta say, we live in the most comfortable time ever.
Oh, yeah.
We're very lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should be thankful for how lucky we are.
Well, that's why they were thankful. They were just thankful for being alive.
Yes.
And not having to eat each other, which
Yes.
they did, by the way. I mean, that's the dark side of Thanksgiving. That's the no Thanksgiving. Yeah.
Okay, well, on that note, Andy, do you feel ready to get recapping? Sorry, I'm having a hard time recovering from that one.
By the way, did everyone enjoy their Thanksgiving?
Yeah. Did you enjoy your Thanksgiving? Let us know. I actually am curious. How many people enjoy their Thanksgiving?
I think Thanksgiving is a 50-50 holiday.
Okay.
I think half of America has a great time, half of America not so great.
Yeah, I feel like 50% of people who go to spend Thanksgiving with whoever they spend Thanksgiving with are going out of obligation.
Yes, or they're going with a good attitude. They're looking forward to it, but it devolves into a political argument and everyone hates each other.
Yeah. Or they're like, oh, this time will be different.
This time will
and
be
they're
different.
just naive.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's enough about Thanksgiving. We have so much to talk about Thanksgiving. Let's get going recapping. Okay, so we're doing both the finale and the reunion, and we're going to go through it as we have been with each couple, but we're going to do the entire arc. So basically the last batch of episodes and then the reunion, and before we move on to the next couple. Sound good?
Sound good.
All right, so we're going to start off. We're going to go in order of breakups. So the first couple to break up since the last batch of episodes is Tim and Alex.
Thank God.
Right.
Oh my God. Is this the word? Have two people
ever been worse together?
Not meant for each other more than these two?
How the hell did they choose each other in the pods? Isn't it so? It goes to show that the pods do not in any way represent actual life together. These two, I've never seen a couple who so blatantly bring out the worst in each other like these two.
Yeah, they're the kind of people who, like, they meet at a party, like someone's like, oh, this is my friend so-and-so, and within 5 seconds, they're fighting.
Yes.
Yeah, they're like the worst. They're not even good for being acquaintances.
I agree.
They can't even maintain an acquaintance.
Yes, and whenever it would seem like they might end this cordially, it was like, no, but there's still this other like jab to be made. They really just brought out the worst in each other, like so obviously.
I actually think on their own, individually, they're good.
Oh, that's the thing, is I like Alex and I like Tim.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of torn on who's more right than the other. We'll get to that. But just when I see them together, I'm like, ugh, you're the worst version of yourself right now. Okay, so we'll quickly touch on the big fight now. So this is... So much about their fights are like, this happened off camera. And so then it becomes a he said, she said. And in this case, he is saying that she took a nap after the cameras had left, but his parents were still in town. His parents had traveled to be there. He really wanted her to respect his parents, and he had made such a big effort with her parents, buying the groceries to then grill for them and all this stuff. And she, meanwhile, later on at the reunion says that she had to bartend that later that night, was going to bartend until 2 or 3 in the morning, and they had a really early day, and they'd been talking to his parents all day. Do we believe one over the other, Andy?
I'm Team Tim by a nose at this point. Okay. I was originally Team Tim 100% all the way. Okay. The reunion kind of made me feel like there might be a side of Tim that I wasn't aware of.
Yeah. Well, it just feels like communication is off. Like for him, I totally understand his stance on like, my parents came all this way. You couldn't even stay awake. Like, because I do think that there is, the goal is for you to stay connected with the parents after the cameras are still around. She might feel like she put in her time, but the time is different when the cameras aren't there. Like it's almost a higher value.
Right.
Because it doesn't feel performative. Right. So I understand his perspective on that. But then if it is indeed true that she had to bartend later that night, it feels
then it's valid.
Yeah, it feels very not.
I would have taken a nap too.
Yeah.
Yeah. 6-7 hours with a family.
Yeah.
I'd say I'm just going to go take a nap. I might not even tell them. I might just like peace out, like Irish goodbye nap.
Yeah. This whole thing, Irish goodbye. So I looked into that to see if it was offensive, by the way, an Irish goodbye. Apparently it's not.
No.
Well, mainly because Irish people are very difficult to offend.
If there's one thing I learned, if you want to speak offensively, go to Ireland.
Yeah.
No one will care.
Yeah. It was actually incredible.
How liberating was that?
It really was.
No one in Ireland is upset about an Irish goodbye.
No.
They're like, of course, that's what we do.
Yeah.
We Irish goodbye. We're proud of it.
Even if it's not true, they're like, that's funny. Ha ha ha.
Funny.
Yeah.
No one can make fun of themselves better than the Irish.
Yeah.
And I was shocked by that.
Okay, so you would do an Irish goodbye, which is not what Alex did. She took a nap. I don't even want to talk about this anymore because I feel like they're both right and they're both wrong. So at the reunion, they touch on the big fight they had in Mexico. So this is the one where he came back the next morning and said that she put her hand over his mouth. She called him something that wasn't his name. And this is why he was so upset. Why are you snickering?
I mean, it's just a funny way of saying it.
Wait,
I've never heard that said before.
Something that wasn't his name.
Yeah.
Yeah. So apparently she called him.
But I knew what the word was when he said
a little bitch?
Well, I knew it was bitch. I didn't know what came before.
It was
bitch.
something little bitch. Yeah.
It was definitely bitch.
A whiny little bitch or something.
Something bitch.
Yeah.
And it was just a funny way of saying it. I've never heard that. But there's something about that, even him saying it that way, where he keeps saying things where he's kind of acting like he's trying to protect her, but he's kind of saying the thing, which made me feel slightly less confident in his narrative. Do you know what I mean?
I know what you mean. And partly because, he said, I don't appreciate being called something that's not my name. And it sort of sounds like, oh, like that sounds really bad.
But then it's a grab bag. But then your imagination goes, wow.
Yeah,
like,
or I don't appreciate you putting something, covering my mouth. Like it sounded assaulty. Yeah. It did. And as Alex said in the reunion, she was like, it sounds kind of like there was some sort of physical assault. There wasn't. And it turns out the thing she called him was a blank little bitch.
Yeah.
And it's not that I don't think that that's that bad, because I don't think that's ever respectful to call your partner ever.
No.
But I agree. Like him not saying it almost made it sound worse than if he had just said,
he does that with everything though. He kind of like makes it like, I'm not going to tell them what you did to be respectful, but I'm also going to tell them what you did.
Well, it's true. By him sort of doing this thing where he's protecting her, he makes himself look good while also making her look possibly worse than she actually was. Because from her perspective, it turns out she was trying to prevent him from making himself look worse in front of producers. I guess producers like trying to knock down the door to capture this fight or something. Anyway, from the reunion, we learned that it's possible she was trying to protect him a bit too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway.
I feel like possibly they're both exactly on the same plane.
Yeah. What's so funny about these two is usually when a couple argues, you're like, oh, well, there's this middle ground. Like there's this spot where the two circles are intersecting and there's this like little shaded part in the middle.
Diagram,
yes. Where I'm like, okay, well, that's probably where the truth lies. Meanwhile, with these two, I'm like, I have no idea.
All I know is that when they're together, everything's bad.
To the point where when one of them was talking and telling their side of the story, the other person was like, oh,
But you
like rolling their eyes. It was so extreme.
What I couldn't understand is how they ever were together in the first place.
Right? Okay. Well,
talk about bringing out a relationship should bring out the best parts of you.
At least some of the time.
Some of the time, yeah.
Hopefully.
So anyway.
Yeah. We'll move on. These two were clearly never meant to be. Moving on now to Hannah and Nick. Oh, Hannah and Nick. So we pick up with this batch of episodes with an engagement shoot. And the only reason I'm mentioning this is because it was so funny. It was one of those like classic engagement shoots where it's like both hands. It's like, it felt very promy. Yeah. But the main reason I'm mentioning it is all the little references to him being small that Hannah made.
She's
like, oh, my hands are bigger than, oh, your arms. Oh, like.
Yeah, she can't help herself.
No, she's the one that brings it up. Someone said in the comments last week that Hannah is so clearly insecure about her looks, her weight, that this manifests in the way she treats him. And of course, we learn later at the reunion that apparently she found out that he had said things about her, or she suspected that he felt a certain way about her looks that caused her to be insecure, in which then manifested in a way where she treated him this way. But to me, there's never an excuse for talking down to someone the way that Hannah consistently has proven to do over the course of this season.
Well, it's almost like she's trying to beat him to the punch.
Yes, well said. Okay, so the next scene we have here is them rock climbing. The main talking point here is him saying that there have been a lot of examples of her talking down to him. He'd like to be treated like an equal. And she says, quote, "You get treated like an equal when you start contributing like an equal."
God damn.
It's a very mother-son.
I would say it's mother-son,
but
it's worse.
A tough mother.
It's like, it's not a good mother-son.
No. And now the flapper party, the main thing that stood out to me here, other than Katie, we'll get to Katie in a second, but Hannah and Ashley are chatting about Nick in the bedroom. And she talks about how much education he needs in the bedroom. Apparently, she suggests, or basically outright says, that he doesn't like going down on a girl, and says that he has the sexual literacy of an 18-year-old.
Wow.
Can you imagine a world in which he said this about her?
No.
Can you imagine?
No. I can imagine a world where he said a couple of not nice things about what she looked like.
Yeah.
But I can't imagine him even doing that, like, quote, locker room talk with the guys about her.
What's so interesting about Hannah and Nick, like, she's so bothered by, she feels he's not real, right? Like, she feels he's not being truthful. Well, she's just honest. Yeah, she's a bitch sometimes, but she's just honest.
Right.
But the fact that they ended up together is so funny, because Nick, meanwhile, is extremely image conscious to the point where maybe he will not say exactly what he thinks because he's protecting both himself and his partner. And I think in that sense, I relate to Nick a bit more, because I don't think that everything needs to be said. And it actually bothers me when people defend meanness or cruelty with it just being honest, with them being honest. It's like, well, I'm just being honest.
Yeah, if everyone was honest about how they thought about everybody, we would be in a civil war right now.
I think delivery is just as important as honesty. If you cannot be kind and honest at the same time, not even kind, but like courteous, considerate of someone else's feelings. So for me, the honesty thing, I feel she was too honest. Here's the thing. She might be right. He might have the sexual literacy of an 18-year-old. He might not like going down on women, but instead of making him look bad, all she did was make herself look bad.
Well, the honest thing here would be to end the relationship.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. That would be the most honest thing. Okay, so the big talking point with the flapper party / post flapper party is Katie. So he, I guess, was Katie's number one and she his for 3 days in the pods. And then they see each other at this party. In this fight, Hannah says, "I've taught you everything you know. I turned you from a boy into a man."
Wow. Damn.
Who says this?
No one says
It's also just not even true. They haven't known each other long enough. She just aims for the what's the
jugular.
Jugular, thank you.
Yeah.
Wait, which is the jugular? It's the throat?
Jugular's right here, yeah.
So do you just die instantly?
If you cut the jugular, if you don't get medical attention within 20 minutes, you're going to bleed out.
So when someone gets in a movie, they get their throat.
Well, actually, interestingly, often in the movies, they show them cutting the front of the throat, which actually you'd probably be fine unless it was a really deep cut and you cut the trachea, in which case you might suffocate. But to actually do a proper throat cut.
Andy.
And I only know this because I've watched a lot of mob movies.
Okay.
But you have to go around ear to ear because the jugular is under the ear, carotid in the jugular. And
Sorry,
I'm just saying,
I did ask. I just didn't want so
when
many
you see
details.
these movies, like you see these, like, you know, like these, like what's the guy, Keanu Reeves, John Wick or whatever. Those kind of John Wick.
I love John Wick.
Yeah. But you see these movies where like he's like doing this fighting. He has a knife and he just spins around and slashes a guy's throat in the front, and he just drops dead. Complete bullshit.
Really?
Yeah, that wouldn't do anything unless you went, as I said, like really deep, like you almost cut through half their head because there's no major arteries here.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just saying I like realism. I don't stand for that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Sharleen,
Yes.
you look very cute.
Oh, do I look cozy?
And festive.
Festive.
And cozy.
Yes.
There's a lot of things going on there that are all good.
Yes, I am wearing my Skims Soft Lounge sleep set from the holiday collection. And frankly, I feel festive and I feel cozy and I feel cute.
It's soft, right? I know that's soft.
It's super soft.
I mean, I have inside information.
It's not just soft, it's also stretchy. Look at this. Look at the stretch. Look at this. And it bounces back.
Wow. Everything with Skims bounces back.
It's always like slinky, stretchy. It's the best. Let's talk about gifts for a second. You're telling me someone opens a sleep set like this and they're like, no, not into that.
I'm a spoiled brat.
Someone who doesn't appreciate nice things.
Comfort. Someone who doesn't appreciate comfort.
Yes, but maybe you are planning to gift someone who appreciates nice things, appreciates comfort.
You don't have to get this for someone who appreciates it. They will eventually appreciate it. They'll be like, I don't want this. And then you'll see them wearing it the next week and they'll be like, yeah, it's okay. It's fine.
That person sounds annoying. Ugh. But Skims for real is so on point, not only from their holiday collection, although it is really nice to give festive things, but their bra collection. I'm obsessed with their Soft Lounge ribbed tank, their Fits Everybody collection. You guys know I've been going on and on and on about the scoop neck bralette and the boy shorts. I mean, they've taken over a huge swath of my wardrobe.
I've never seen you wear a single Skims thing where I didn't look at you and say, damn, she looks good.
So shop the Skims holiday shop at skims.com.
Available in styles for women, men, kids, and even pets.
And if you haven't yet, be sure to let them know we sent you. After you place your order, select podcast in the survey and Dear Shandy in the drop-down menu that follows. Okay, so Hannah keeps coming at him about Katie here, how Katie said he was attractive. And here, Nick, we see a different side of Nick. I think it's drunk Nick. We agreed that we agreed they were both a little drunk. But drunk Nick actually was, I thought, a better Nick in this relationship in that he stood up for himself a bit. Yeah. Like she kept saying, Katie's my best friend in the world, which by the way, can we just talk about that for a second?
First of all, I'm going to call BS on all these my greatest friend in the world who I met on a reality show
3 weeks
ago.
3
weeks ago. Like, no,
actually,
that's not it.
Yeah.
Or 6 months ago. I don't care how many months ago it is.
Yeah.
This is not fact. These are passerby friends.
Yeah.
These are friends who you're gonna have a big fight with in a year and you're not gonna speak to ever again.
Or
maybe you'll just be acquaintances.
Maybe it stands more of a chance than The Bachelor, but I remember that phase where it was like, we had just filmed the show and everyone was each other's best friend. Suddenly the word best friends, which I inherently have an issue with because the word best.
I have an issue too.
You just be good friends.
You're just friends. How about adult friends? You're not 3. You're an adult. No one has best friends anymore.
And with The Bachelor, you all then go back to your respective cities. So, a good example for me is Kat. I think Kat from my season, we would be very, very, very close friends, but she lives in Arizona and I live in New York. So we just hardly ever see each other. And then you just sort of like fade. But if she's in New York, I'm so excited to see her. It's just like you just sort of fade. So maybe if they're all living in Washington, D.C., it's more believable. But at this point in filming, she had met Katie when she started filming this show. So three weeks prior.
It's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
Best friends?
Best friend in the world.
In the world. I mean, I guess that's the only place you can have best friends.
Yeah, it makes you feel sad for her state of friendships going into the show.
Yeah, I also felt that way.
Yeah, there was an empty spot on the
podium. And I didn't get the feeling like Katie was necessarily her best friend. Like I felt like Katie was kind of like, oh, I'm her best friend, all right.
If you say so.
Yeah.
Okay, Nick here, I thought this was a good look on him. He says, well, if Katie's your best friend in the world, why are you not taking this up with her? Like I didn't do anything wrong. Like if the thing you're upset about is something Katie said about me, like calling me attractive, why? I thought,
it's totally reasonable.
This was the most, I don't want to, retaliatory I think we've seen Nick be. And I thought it was a good look on him considering how abrasive Hannah is.
It's so amazing that this is what we would consider retaliatory by Nick. He's so unretaliatory that he has to get a few drinks in him and then say something like, well, you should take this up with your friend. And we're like, whoa, slow down, son.
It's true. Okay, so the next scene with these two, Nick meets Hannah's friends. So they're at a bar. Of course, this is so unsurprising. Hannah strikes me as one of those, she's from the South, right?
Yeah.
She's one of those girls that there's like a sorority vibe to her with her friends, which is sorority. Like, it's like a heavy like loyalty, like agreeing with each other all the time. And unsurprisingly, her two friends are very like on her side when she recounts the duck situation, for example, which of course it comes up.
Who would be on her side? Who really would be on her side? Well, here's the thing.
You might be on her side when you hear her rendition of the story and only hers. Because
I can't imagine a rendition of her story that I would be on the side of.
Well, according to her, this woman came along and was calling her jealous.
If she said that he got on the duck, she got on the duck, and then they jumped on the same duck, started making out, and he ripped her top off, then I would be on her side.
Yeah, well, unsurprisingly, her friends, they play the role of like, it's just it is a role. It feels like a role to me. That role of friends who are like
defending to the end.
her. They're loyal to her. Anyone who's your enemy is my enemy. And they're grilling him. But even the grilling, it's like, so Nick, like, what do you like to do?
Yeah.
Like a lot to work with there. And he's like, I like sports.
Yeah, what was that? They were just setting him up.
It was pretty painful.
You know what? I don't want to have friends like that. I don't want to have friends that I have to constantly defend. And the fact is, when you do defend your friends, oftentimes you have to defend them for things that probably aren't that defensible.
That is a very good point. If you have a friend that constantly needs defending or is constantly wrapped up in conflicts with other people where you're always hearing a side of the story that you're agreeing with them, I feel like that's a bit of a red flag.
It's a real drag. It's like having a friend who's always hitting you up for money.
Yeah.
You're like, are you my friend or are you my banking client?
Yeah,
what's going on here? I don't want to deal with this.
I did have a friend like this where it was just always talking shit.
You know what? I always say, I don't always say this. I'm saying this for the first time, but I've thought this.
Yeah.
Is those who sling shit, beware of. Because the shit may be slung at you.
Oh, the shit is 100% slung at you when you're not there.
Yeah, it's like
just
a
not being
shit
slung
fan.
at you right directly to your face. That's the thing.
Fan.
The shit fan, exactly. A lot of slinging.
You know what I think this was? If I had to psychoanalyze this?
What?
I think that Hannah knew from the get-go that Nick wasn't into her. Like out of the right when they saw each other.
Yeah.
She was like, I've seen this before.
Yeah.
And and she's been scarred by that, I think, traumatized in the past. And instead of letting it play out, she's like, I'm going to immediately know that this is broken and this guy's going to try to hurt me and I'm going to turn it on him. And I think the whole rest of the relationship was her basically getting revenge on him for what she knew he was probably going to do.
So you think that his intention was to make it to the very end and say no at the altar?
Yes.
You think
100%. She was right.
Yeah.
I'm not faulting her for being wrong. I'm faulting her for the way she behaved.
Well, and for the dishonesty, like for someone who is so honest.
Right.
If she should just end it then.
She should have just been like, this isn't working.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's
she did eventually end it.
Easier said than done, but she instead chose the lowest road, the lowest of all roads, which is to punish him from the minute she met him till the end for what she assumed he was eventually going to do to her. I think she used the crutch of I love you to have 007 license to just rip him apart for the entire show.
I completely agree. It was always like, I love you so much. We love each other so much. And that's why it bothers me, but it frustrates me that you X, Y, Z.
I really feel like this was vengeance.
Do we think there's a world in which Nick was really...
No.
So you think Nick was always, I mean, Andy has been calling it since the beginning. I don't know if it's such a crazy call, but you've been saying since the beginning that he was 100% in this for his real estate
100%.
career. And we'll, of course, get to his, what was it, 12-week goals or whatever it's called. We'll get to that.
Like, is Nick a little cringe? Was Nick here for the wrong reasons? Yes, all of that stuff is true. But I don't think Nick is a bad guy. I think Nick is just one of these guys.
Yeah.
And Hannah chose to use him as a battering ram.
Yeah.
For her insecurities.
Yeah.
And I don't approve of that.
Yeah, I think there's just never any excuse to belittle someone like that at all, let alone on TV.
Yeah.
At every turn. Every turn. I mean, she just really, at one point, Andy, she makes him break down what he pays for, what his expenses are. And you said that she's undressing him.
Yeah.
It felt like that. Like she was just humiliating him.
It was a public flogging from the minute he jumped on that duck.
Yeah. Not even the proverbial duck, the actual duck.
No, the actual, yeah. Actual duck.
And now we have the reunion. So Hannah does her very best, I think, at trying to take accountability. Like she says that, yes, she can come off bitchy. She's just direct. She stands by, more or less, though, everything she said about Nick. And Nick says she's entitled to her opinions, but some of it didn't seem true. For example, saying that their intelligence is not on the same level. And Garrett, we got to point out that Garrett steps in to defend Nick here.
Yeah.
And this was the start of observing. I'm so curious. I will probably never know, but observing little cliques within this cast.
Yeah.
Of who's friends with who, who's defending who. And we start to learn pretty quickly that there is like a mafia of women scorned.
Yes.
I think. You know, the Alex, Brittany, Marissa, Hannah, Monica.
Well, they're bonded over that.
Yes.
It's a bond. It's like they were like trench mates in a war.
And you don't really see the women not scorned joining in the same way. You didn't see Taylor jumping in to Hannah's defense.
Nor Ashley.
I just thought it was very interesting that Garrett defended Nick here. To me, I don't think Garrett would have defended Nick if Taylor were close friends with Hannah.
I agree.
I was curious. And here's the other thing is I like Garrett and Taylor and respect them so much that I put a lot of weight on the fact that Garrett defended Nick here. I put a lot of weight on the fact that Taylor is probably not close with Hannah.
I personally think in general in life, confidence attracts confidence and insecurity attracts insecurity.
100%. Yes. Okay, so Hannah has a hard time admitting she did much wrong until AD. AD, we love AD. She looks amazing. She calls Hannah out on doubling down. Yeah. And only then is Hannah like, oh, I'm sorry, Nick, for being cruel.
And she could have ended it right there.
Oh,
would have been a nice end.
It would have been nice, but no. Now the hate that she has been receiving online comes up. And what was interesting to observe is how much it bothered, it seems, the women or the people scorned, I suppose, by the fact that Hannah had been receiving hate and Nick had not. Because in their opinion, there's another side of the story, which is that Nick apparently told the guys that he rated Hannah's looks a 5 out of 10. He apparently referred to her as a grenade, which, I mean, that sounds...
I assume that's bad.
Yeah, and it also is a little too specific to have made up.
I agree.
It's one thing if it's like, oh, he said she's ugly, but like the word grenade is not a word you typically use for someone's looks. So Hannah's like, why are you liking those nasty comments? And now Marissa jumps in. She's next to Hannah. She jumps into Hannah's defense. What are your thoughts on this, Andy?
Not a great look for Marissa.
Yeah, I got to agree.
Yeah, it looked like she was just being loyal to her friend and she was scorned as well. It was like a scorned party.
Yes.
And I got to be honest, Marissa lost some points for me here.
Yeah, I have loved Marissa all season. I did not think this was a great move because I think that it did not take into account Hannah's cruelty all season long. Yeah. And here's the thing. It's very possibly and honestly likely true that Nick did write a list of 90-day goals. What did I call it? 12 weeks. His 90-day goals of selling 2 homes, being in amazing shape, and quote, being the most famous person on Love is Blind. But to me, that's that's just like, okay, whatever. It's not surprising. Everyone goes on the show knowing they're going on a show.
Okay, again,
a lot of people get engaged because they know it gets them to the next level of the show. You can't be surprised by that.
I have to repeat this public service announcement we make every season.
Yes.
90% of the people go on these shows to be the most famous person on the show.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
It's just a fact. Maybe 75, whatever.
Yes.
Mincing words here. But the fact is that he just wrote down the things that everyone's thinking.
Yes.
That was his mistake. But really, it wasn't meant for public digestion.
Yes.
That was for him.
Yes.
So technically, he did everything right. It's just someone found it.
What he did wrong was not hiding it well enough. Sounds like he didn't hide it at all.
Yeah, he got caught. He went to jail. He was the criminal who got caught.
The thing about Hannah and I'm going to say now, because it wasn't just her at this point, is that they were so hell-bent on making Nick look as bad as they believe him to be. But every bit of execution was wrong. The execution of Hannah throughout the season, and then the execution here of them all attacking him. I think it would have been enough for Hannah to have said, I had heard through the grapevine that Nick had said these things about my appearance, and that caused me to be even more insecure about my looks than I might have already been, and I did not behave as my best self in the relationship because of that. But to me, that was like the kernel of truth that was shrouded by a lot of like attacking and shouting, and it just wasn't a great look. They ended up making him look better.
But also the double standard here. Okay, so he left the pods, and I'm sure he did say something about Hannah's looks to the guys that wasn't complimentary.
Sure.
I'm sure he used the word grenade.
Yeah.
But then she says he has the sexual intelligence of an 18-year-old, and everyone's like, yeah, that's fine.
It's
no problem there. Nothing to see. That's far worse an insult than just saying a generalized, not attractive.
That's subjective.
And you're going right to his manhood. It's like, men are going to be, if you go and say a guy, like if she was like, she did say he was small. She kept saying he was small, too small.
Too small.
Yeah. And if you go to a guy and you say, oh, that guy's ugly, some guys don't even care. They're like, I've got all this other stuff. I don't care. Looks are not my thing.
Well,
but if you go to a guy and say he doesn't know how to have sex with a woman, that's way bigger an insult.
Oh, there is a bit of a gender double standard here, because I think that if he had said even half of what she had said in her confessionals about how let down she was by his looks.
Yeah.
You know, when they met, it seemed like she was borderline repulsed by him.
Well, that's the whole thing that I feel so defensive on her part. It's like, and also the people, I think people are definitely siding with Nick.
Yeah,
I'm assuming the world is siding with Nick on this.
I found her to be verbally abusive.
The physical comments were far worse from Hannah to him. Even if all the things that he said that people backed up were true, I still say that Hannah has been more critical of his physical situation than he has of hers.
I completely agree. So, I mean, they basically pile it on until finally Ramses comes out of the woodworks to say none of them are perfect. Nick should just own what he said. And Nick finally says, yes, he did say he was underwhelmed, but he didn't call her a grenade.
All right. I'll give him that one lie.
I actually think this was really not the venue for Hannah. Like, I actually think if you are inherently insecure about your looks, I don't think Love is Blind is...
No, it's the worst place.
That's how it feels to me.
The worst place.
You're basically reserving the thing that you're most insecure about for last.
I completely agree. But also someone who has a high standard for the looks they want.
Yes, which she did.
It's the worst of both worlds.
Yeah, Hannah was actually the
very
most...
unblind love.
Yeah, she in some ways was the most selective physically out of any of them.
Yeah,
as far as we could tell.
From optics, she looked more disappointed when she met Nick than Nick looked disappointed about her.
But they would argue that she was just more honest.
Oh. She was very honest, extremely honest throughout the whole process.
Honesty,
except about the fact that they shouldn't be together.
Honesty for me is sometimes overrated.
Yeah.
Like honesty, it still matters how you deliver your honesty.
Well, she used honesty as a weapon.
Yes, totally. Okay, so next up we have Marissa and Ramses. I'm going to try to flow through. There's a lot of scenes in Washington, D.C. The main one I want to touch on, other than the one where I felt like he was starting to self-sabotage when he starts to pick apart. She had changed how many years until they could have kids, basically. She's like, oh, I could go for 2.5. We could get pregnant tomorrow. I don't mind. And he brings up that conversation as he's starting to feel like a little insecure, which I gotta say, in retrospect, you could argue was him planting the seed for the very first time.
I agree.
That, by the way, was when there were 12 days left before the weddings. Okay, so the next scene worth mentioning is they're in a boat hot tub, and Marissa talks about how divorce averse she is. And she says something that just blew my mind, and apparently blew Ramses's mind too. She says she would be willing to be unhappy for a whopping 5 to 7 years before getting a divorce.
I like that range. It's a very specific range.
It's true. Yeah, this is kind of insane. And I completely agreed with Rams's reaction to this. He was like, really?
Why would you do that?
Yeah. And I think that this was another moment where he was like, Mayday, Mayday, because he realized how far she was willing to go to make this work.
But it's also a critique on him. She was like, you got divorced, like impulsively. But I, on the other hand, would wait 5 to 7 years of misery to get divorced.
It did feel a little passive aggressive, but I don't know if Marissa's a passive aggressive person.
I don't think she meant it, but I think sometimes these things happen subconsciously.
Yeah.
I think she, in the back of her mind, she's like, you've been divorced. I want to lay the groundwork here that if we need to get divorced, we're waiting a solid 5 to 7 years before we actually sign those papers.
There's some fundamental differences between these two. We thought when they first came out of the pods, they were going to work. I mean, we were dead wrong about that.
Okay, but let's think about this realistically. We are talking about a relationship that is literally 3 weeks old.
Yeah.
In the real world, if you said, one of your friends is like, oh, Sharleen, I met this guy. This is the one. This is the one. How many times have you heard that in your life?
Many.
100 times?
But interestingly, most of the times I've heard this is the one has been from the same person.
Oh.
This person doesn't listen to this podcast.
They don't listen to the podcast. No, don't worry. But I will say this. 3 weeks in, all is fair game. Like you can be fully in love with someone and then completely not in love with them 2 days later. You get the ick. They say something. You suddenly feel the walls closing in on you. You feel walls on your shoulders.
Yeah.
Claustrophobia.
Yeah.
This is ridiculous. Like we can't look at this like a normal situation. It's not like these people have been dating for 2 years, living with each other, having Thanksgiving with each other's families.
Yeah.
This is a 3-week fling.
Yeah.
And suddenly Ramses feels claustrophobic and he feels like he got the ick and he's like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to get married to this woman. And I don't defend Ramses in any other way. I think Ramses has committed many fouls and I was a big fan of Marissa and I am, but Marissa here is in a situation where the truth is winning. And the truth is that Ramses no longer feels the same way he did about her 3 days ago.
So let's get to that. So the breakup scene where he says there's a lot of other things that need to work. And she's like, what things? Tell me the things. I need an example of the things. And then finally, after a lot of hemming and hawing, he finally says her energy. And this, I think, is kind of triggering for her because she even said in the pods that men like to date her for a couple weeks, but then they lose interest. Something happens. And there was a lot of talk of like, do you think I'll be too much for you? And he says, no, I don't think she's too much for me. Like, which I mean is energy, I think at the end of the day. And so the very thing, it was all foreshadowing for this happening. The very thing she was worried that tends to happen. And the very thing he was like, no, it's not going to happen. I think we balance each other out nicely happens.
Well, Ramses is a very chill guy.
Yeah.
Not in a necessarily bad way. He's just a more mellow guy. And she's got a very bubbly energy.
Yeah.
And sometimes that doesn't work.
But here's the thing. I thought it would work. I thought it would. They would complement each other.
I thought that he would like it. He'd be like, "Oh, she's lifting me up. She's giving me more energy." But instead, it made him feel more claustrophobic. I think.
Yeah, but she is the exact same person she was in the pods. Like her energy then is the same energy she has now.
Fling. It was a fling. He wanted a new flavor. There's a new flavor. He's like, oh, a bubbly flavor.
Yeah.
I like this flavor. Then after 2 weeks, he's like, I don't want this flavor
It's like champagne
anymore.
flavored ice cream. It's like, oh, okay, but I'm not getting that next time.
It's a novelty.
Yes. I do that when I go get ice cream sometimes.
Yeah?
I'm like, oh, a flavor of the month.
Yeah.
And that's interesting.
Oh, and you usually abandon the flavor of the month?
Yeah.
Has there ever been a flavor of the month that you've stuck with for forever?
Well, usually if it's a flavor of the month, it's not being brought in as a full-time flavor, to be honest.
Well, I feel like some flavors of the month become full-time flavors. That's the whole point of flavor of the month, is to test a new flavor.
Really poking holes in my analogy here. But no, I mean, no, I don't think the flavor of the month tends to... So your point basically being that she was a flavor for him and he was trying it out and he was like...
And he really liked it.
Yeah.
But then he got a little tired of the taste and then eventually he got a little sick of the taste.
I feel bad for her, though.
I feel bad for her too, but this is life.
Her energy didn't change from the beginning. She was just so enthusiastic about him.
Yeah,
it's
and
like
pretzel, peanut butter, chocolate, Rocky Road, marshmallow crunch doesn't change either. But you change. You get sick of the taste.
I mean, he definitely did the right thing by ending it. But I think I agree with her when she said he should have started telling her about his doubts the second they set in. Even looking back, I think that there were a couple of conversations where he kind of did, but I think that Marissa was so in this. Like she was beyond, like there was nothing stopping her from marrying this man level, that I think she needed to be hit over the head with more of like a sledgehammer than just like a gentle, hey, I'm having a couple nerves.
I kind of agree. And again, I want to come back to the point that this is a 3-week timeline.
Yeah.
Something I could go to sleep. If I'm dating someone, and this has happened to me too, if I'm dating someone for in the course of 2 or 3 weeks, I could wake up one morning and be like, oh, this is wrong.
It's true.
And go to sleep thinking it's great.
No, it's so true.
So Ramsey's at fault for many things. He's no hero on this show. Believe me, I'm not Team Ramses. But I will say.
Ramses. You always call him Ramses.
I can't separate. I grew up with Ramses was the #1 condom when I was a kid.
The #1?
Yeah, Trojan really came up strong.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I think.
Trojan's a better name.
It's better. Oh, Trojan won. They won the game.
Yeah.
You don't hear
With
people talking about Ramses anymore.
Yeah.
Anyway, Ramses did something that I think many guys do, except it was on TV. So he looks like a bad guy.
Yeah.
There was no transition time. There was no time to transition. It went from let's plan a wedding to I'm suddenly not feeling this.
To be honest, I think it has been transitioning for a while.
She didn't want to see the hints.
And looking back now, when I look at these other conversations they had, I mean, he even uses the word shifted in that conversation. He says things have shifted.
To be honest with you, I think the whole military conversation was him trying to sabotage.
You said that last week, actually. Yeah. You were like, is he really this steadfast in his beliefs, or is he trying to sabotage this?
No, he was trying to sabotage. And I think that he realized his sabotaging wasn't going to work because she was just coming back at him with bubbly energy.
Yeah.
And he said, okay, I have to just end this. I don't have a specific reason, which 90% of the time, honestly, let's be honest. When someone breaks up with someone, is there a specific reason? Like, you stole my money, so I'm breaking up with you. Mm-hmm. Or you voted for this guy, so I'm breaking up with you. No, it's like, I just, I don't, this is, nah.
It's true.
But
you know,
like it.
In her defense, she said that 2 days before the breakup, he said he was excited to marry her.
That's his foul.
Yeah, he's got to work on what he says. That's
his foul.
Yeah. The planting of the seed requires constant tending to. You can't just plant the seed once and then say you're excited to marry someone and then be like, oh, I did plant that seed a week ago.
I know. That's the problem.
You said this about Ramses. He prides himself on being not a guy's guy, but he's the ultimate guy.
Oh, yeah. He's just a guy.
Yeah, it's true. The Ramses, there is something about him that's kind of like, oh, no, I'm not like other guys.
No, he's a different guy.
Yeah.
I'm like way more woo.
Yeah.
I've got a big feminine side. Mm-hmm. I'm like
sensitive.
Intuitive. I understand women. No, he's just a dude.
Absolutely heartbreaking scenes here now where she's sobbing, trying to change his mind. In her confessional, she says 2 days before they were picking out their wedding song, she calls her mother and says, Mom, it hurts so bad. I don't know if I've ever seen a breakup this heart-wrenching on TV, like ever. Like it makes Bachelor breakups look like a joke.
It's brutal. Absolutely brutal.
And now at the reunion, Marissa still tears up. And again, it's been almost a year since the show. So it's been almost a year of her recovering. She still tears up talking about this. She feels like she had to relive it, watching it back. He said he felt a disconnect in their energy. I mean, he says she deserves someone who embraces her as she is. And I mean, I agree with this. I feel like I've actually softened on Ramses since watching this.
Yeah.
Even hearing myself talk about it, like, yes, I think Ramses should have done XYZ differently, for sure. And I certainly didn't like how unwilling to meet her in the middle he was with the military conversation, as we touched on last week.
Yeah.
But I feel myself being a little softer on him after, I don't know, when I watched it, I was like, that asshole.
Yeah.
I really was. I was really like Team Marissa.
I hated Ramses.
Yeah, I really was just not into him in this breakup, in the reunion and all this stuff. But after marinating on it, just seriously, it's like going into this recap, I'm kind of like, the whole show is an experiment with a very tight deadline and a literal marriage.
It's an unfair construct.
It is. And I think that the most unfair thing he could have done was to go through with it. And her mother does say, like, she does thank him for calling it off.
And she said that sincerely.
Yes, she
I
did.
Actually thought the mother's, I thought she was going to be very inappropriate.
Yeah, I thought she was going to rip him a new
But
asshole.
she actually was extremely eloquent, and everything she said, I totally agree with. It was great.
Yeah.
She's like, thank you. You gave us a gift. I mean, she obviously said it with a little bit of back of a hand, but it's so true. He gave a gift. And you know, the construct of this show forces the breaker-upper to look like an asshole unless there's some absolute red line that was crossed.
Yes.
Like, they cheated or they sexted while they had an apnea test or something of that nature.
Yeah.
But he did it. There was no red line. She was just sweet and nice and bubbly and supportive.
Marissa, it's hard not to love Marissa.
Right. So then people are like, you're a bad guy because you're not marrying her. But is he a good guy? Wouldn't he be a bad guy for marrying her at this point without feeling like he loves her?
Yeah. And I also think that, they are in this bubble that I think is really meant to make them feel like, yeah, I'm in love. I'm marrying this person. In the same way you could say Tim was a bad guy for asking for Alex's hand in marriage 2 days before they ended things.
I thought that was worse in a way.
Oh, it definitely worse.
As a matter of fact, I thought that was way worse.
Yeah. But I guess my point being, like, I think that you go through these waves, these ups and downs of like, yeah, I am in love with you. Yeah, this is really going to work. Yeah, I am excited. And then suddenly something happens and you're like, holy shit.
Well, it's almost like you get really drunk one night and you go out and you do some stuff and you think you're the king of the world. You're like, oh my God, I'm killing it tonight.
Yeah.
Then you wake up in the morning and you want to shoot yourself.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like this is what happens a little bit here. You wake up one morning, you're like, what the hell am I doing? This person's not right for me. Why am I doing this? I'm about to get married.
I imagine that that's very much how it feels.
Yeah.
Like you feel like you were on something. You had a wild night out with friends. One thing led to another. I've had nights like that before.
Totally.
Where I was like, I met someone randomly and then we went to some party and blah, 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 blah.
They're drunk on show. They're drunk on the show.
On the cameras.
They're like in the
everything.
spotlight. They've got a whole crew of cameras following them around. They feel like they're a celebrity. They feel like something big is happening.
They're talking about their feelings all the time.
All the time. Feelings. It's
Yeah.
a big thing that's happening. They feel like they're a part of a bigger thing.
It's very unnatural.
It's super unnatural. And then suddenly the guy breaks up because he just doesn't feel it anymore and he's a villain. And Ramses is a villain for other reasons, but he is not a villain for this reason.
Well, so then define, Andy, why you think Ramses is a villain. Because I agree. I do think that yeah.
Well, interestingly, when we first saw Ramses, we loved him. Thought he was great.
He was the one I would go for.
He was the one you would go for.
Yeah.
So you also broke up with him.
Yeah, I broke up with him
viciously, without any explanation.
Well, and it wasn't even the military conversation. It was more the delivery, like his lack of willingness to meet her in the middle. But the thing that I broke up with Ramses over was the condom conversation.
Well, it was the condom conversation and the military conversation, not because I agree or disagree with anything. It's irrelevant, my opinion, about the military or condoms.
Yeah.
It was the delivery and the execution and the fact that he was just dictating and not compromising and also kind of critiquing a whole part of her life, like a better part of a decade. He was just like, nah, not good.
Yeah.
Not going to accept that. No middle ground. And it was the same with the condoms. It was like, this is not a way you act in a relationship. This is not a way you act with someone you supposedly love.
Yeah.
And that soured me on him big time, both those conversations. But when I look back on it, now it's like a sandwich because first I liked Ramsey, then I didn't. Can I just call him Ramsey?
Yeah. Go.
First I liked him, then I suddenly didn't like him. Like it was a real turn. But then at the end, when I think most people are like, oh, now I really hate Ramses, I was like, really? Is this really a reason to hate Ramses? Was he let her go? And he had to let her go. What was he going to do? Do it at the altar?
I actually think one of the reasons why Ramses looks as bad as he does is because of how hard Marissa took it.
I agree. I mean, I'm not surprised she took it that hard, but I agree with you.
There is a world in which another woman, like let's say a different personality of woman, receives the exact same treatment from Ramses and is just not as upset about it, to be honest.
No, I totally agree.
I think one of the reasons why it is as heartbreaking and why you are so anti-Ramses, I don't mean you, I mean people in general, is because Marissa was really lovable and bubbly. She was herself the whole time, and so he knew what he was getting, and then she was as heartbroken as she was. But I actually don't know if he's that bad. I mean, we're going to get to someone who is potentially that bad, you know?
No, I think Ramses is just a dude. As I said, Ramses
he's a dude.
He tries to be like some singer in DeBarge, but he's actually just a dude.
He's a bit of a wolf in sheep's clothing, I think.
Totally.
Not even a wolf. He's just like a dude in sheep's clothing.
He's a garden variety dude.
Yes.
Trying to pass himself off as something a little holier.
Yes.
And honestly, the holier than thou element of him is what I find the most, disdainful.
I agree.
But in the end, it is very hard for me to say that Ramses committed a major foul by breaking up with Marissa. Hurts her. It hurt her a lot, and she was very devastated. But would it have been any different if he waited 2 days, 4 days, 6 days? at the altar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or done it a week earlier or whatever. Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. It's like 2 days before the wedding. It's like, it's only been 3 weeks. There's only so many days to work with.
And that's the other thing. It's either 0 or 60.
Yeah.
So you can't decelerate, I feel like, in this construct.
Mm-hmm.
It's very easy to say, well, he should have gone from step 5 to step 4 to step 3 to step 2 to step 1 to breakup.
Mm-hmm.
That's not how it works. He's got the clocks ticking. It's like if he feels a slight ick or a slight suddenly he's turning the other way, he's got to make the call right there, even if 2 days before he wanted to get married.
I see what you're saying, but you could also say that when he's at 4, he could be like, hey, I'm at 4. I'm not 100% sure.
If he was,
although I guess, looking back, he might have kind of sort of done that.
I think he kind of did. I think what he did wrong was he wobbled between 3 and 5.
Okay, and then suddenly he was like, I'm at 0.
Suddenly 0. One skin sends zombie cells back to hell.
Yes, Andy, one skin. We are talking, this is science-based skincare and zombie cells. You've heard us talk about the zombie cells in your skin, but, a refresher. Senescent cells. They are in your skin. They're in my skin. They're in Andy's skin. Senescent cells are dysfunctional cells. They're actually the central source of aging in your skin. And you would think that's bad enough, but it actually gets worse because they affect the healthy cells around them. So if you could combat senescent cells, you could quite literally reverse your skin's biological age. Wouldn't that be awesome, Andy?
Not only would it be awesome, but why are you not using science on your skin?
Mm-hmm. Why are you using just pretty packaging?
Pretty
and
packaging,
like floral scents.
smelly creams.
Yeah. Smelly creams. Yeah, but oftentimes it's just pretty packaging. It's a nice scent. It's a good texture, but it's not actually doing anything. OneSkin is the ultimate in using science to truly not just treat the symptoms of skin aging, but actually treat the root cause. And what makes OneSkin so special is they have their proprietary OS1 peptide. And remember, this company was founded by scientists. And they put a lot of research into this peptide to discover that it could actually reverse your skin's biological age by not months, but years.
OS1 is the proverbial holy water you're throwing on these blood-sucking vampires. There's an arms race in healthy-looking skin, let's be honest. And if you're building an army in your town to protect it from aging skin...
This is sounding like a video game.
And you have... all these zombies within your city walls.
Oh, it's so
But you're
true.
ignoring them. You're like, we don't need to worry about them. We're just building our army, and one day an enemy's come. No, the enemy's right there. There's zombies wandering around everywhere.
That is such a good visual, Andy. And I have been using OneSkin products for almost a year now, and I think it's doing something.
Yeah, proof's in the pudding. That pudding face.
That's my pudding face.
So OneSkin is the world's first skin longevity company.
It's time to get started with your new face, eye, and body routine with a discounted rate today.
Get a free travel bag, a $39 value with your first OneSkin order over $79 with code TRAVELGIFT at oneskin.co.
That's a free travel bag with code TRAVELGIFT at oneskin.co.
We only have one body and one skin, and only you can choose to make it better.
Age healthy with OneSkin. Okay, so before we move on to the final couples, I want to quickly touch on Monica and Steven, and then Leo and Brittany. Monica and Steven, turns out he was at a sleep study. I was calling BS, but apparently he was. There was a photo to prove it. And there was a funny moment where he's like, oh, I apologized. I wrote a letter to her parents. And Monica's like, I knew it. I knew you wrote that letter to my parents just so you could say it. And he has a big speech here. I feel like this was the real Steven. The real Steven came out. He was like, no one wants to hear my side of the story. I'm the bad guy. I'm the villain. Like, what's the point? What's the point of this? Like, none of you want me to be the good guy. Like, why do you need to hear me defend myself?
Yeah, it was a totally different Steven.
It was.
It was almost like he was acting the whole time.
Yes. He reminded me of Usual Suspects, Andy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
Suddenly his limp was gone for a second.
Yeah.
I think that might work for him quite a bit in life, actually.
Yeah, the gentle giant who actually is just a big asshole.
Do we think Steven's an asshole, though? That's the thing. I think Steven is a bit of like a big kid in a candy shop and doesn't even know. Like, I don't think he loves himself to know he's not even in the realm of knowing what he's looking for in a woman or a life partner at this point. I think he's still just like, yeah, I can put my dick in mac and cheese.
Yeah, he's a kid.
This is a thing you can put your dick
he's like
in.
a little bit of a frat bro.
Yeah. And this sort of like, cute, cutie patootie, like, was I being too chatty? Like, I was at a sleep study. No, I don't know what the text said. Like that kind of dopey thing he's got going on is one of his shticks.
Honestly, Steven represents what I feel about a lot of people on this show, which is they're showing two sides, and I don't know which one's real, but I have to assume the bad one is the right one.
Wait, the bad one's the true one.
Yeah.
Okay.
For everybody.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what to think. Everyone is full of shit.
Well, humans are flawed. Okay, so now we have Leo and Brittany. I mean, Leo's the exact same. You know what I like about Leo? He looks the same.
Yeah.
He dresses the
Acts
same.
the same.
He acts the same to the point where he's like, I didn't realize how often I spoke about money. And I wish I hadn't led with what I do and the money I have. Turns out he and Brittany are friends. They talk on the phone like an hour a day. He makes an analogy about Brittany versus Hannah, a restaurant analogy. It was very you, Andy, where he's debating between pasta and steak. Although you wouldn't have made this analogy. It's a little too, I think it's not creative enough.
Yeah, it's also could come off as crass.
Well, so he said he was so focused on the decision that he didn't realize the food has feelings. And then Vanessa Lachey, of course, is like, I don't think women like being compared to steak and pasta.
Okay,
I mean,
first of all, let's do analogy 101. Analogies are analogies.
Yes.
No one's feelings can be hurt by the things that are representing them in the analogy.
Yeah, he's not the women are not pasta and steak. The analogy is his indecision about the pasta and steak.
Right. Real misunderstanding of analogies.
Yeah,
here.
I found this irksome. Like, if you can't laugh at an analogy, like an analogy serves a purpose. It's not a direct comparison.
Yes,
that's the thing about analogies. Okay, so next up, the big one, Ashley and Tyler.
Oof, okay.
Pretty much she comes to understand the sperm baby situation. She says it's not what I had envisioned for myself, but I accept. They go-karting, talk about kids, skydiving. She says skydiving was something I always wanted to do prior to getting married. And a funny moment here where she accidentally uses the word donate about him impregnating her.
Hilarious.
Donating his sperm. Ugh.
That's what the kids call him nowadays.
They have a beautiful wedding. I got to say, Ashley looks absolutely stunning on her wedding day. Yeah. And, okay, they seem very happy. Okay, so now that brings us to the reunion. Ashley, again, looks amazing. Her hair. Oh, yeah. The hair, the shorter hair on her is just so good. Okay, so sperm baby gate, Andy. I feel bad, honestly, glossing over all the good stuff with them, but it's kind of hard to talk about how beautiful their partnership is in light of all the other stuff happening or having happened. And I think people just want to hear us talk about sperm baby gate. So Andy, had you researched this and then you filled me in, but give us the down low on sperm baby gate.
What I heard happened is he donated sperm to his good friend who was in a marriage with a woman, and he donated his sperm.
They wanted to.
And I assume the donation was done firsthand.
Oh, you think?
The old-fashioned way. I mean, how else is he going to donate it?
Well,
they couldn't afford that. The whole line was they couldn't afford regular sperm donation. So what did he put it in a cup and then take a long range syringe and come on. I know how he donated it.
Okay.
But the point is he donated the sperm. She had a baby. He kind of was, involved in the child situation along with the wife, but then the wife left.
Yes.
And I'll talk about that later, but the wife left. And then it was just him and the baby mama and this baby, sperm baby.
Right now I feel like you need funny background music.
Yeah.
A slow zoom in on you and
clown
funny
music,
clown music.
So anyway, then there's now that's just him and the baby mama and the sperm baby.
Okay.
Otherwise known as a baby.
Yes.
And otherwise known as his son. Otherwise known as he being the father whose last name is the son's last name. Anyway, so then there is another set of babies.
Yes. Twins.
Twins. That happens just by the stork comes in and brings a couple of twins in. And so I think that was, I may have gotten it wrong. I think maybe she left after the twins were born.
Oh, the wife of the friend?
Yeah, I think she left after the twins.
No, I thought that she left after the first baby. I'm pretty sure she left after baby number 1.
Really?
Yeah. Do I have it wrong? How funny is it that this story is so convoluted and so messed up that we're like, did she leave after baby number 1 or baby number 3? Like, we're not even like, it's so messed up. These are humans. The babies are humans. Okay, continue, Andy.
So anyway, so now there's twins. And from my understanding is he was fully fathering these twins with her because there was no wife.
Yeah, and his argument at the reunion was that he didn't want the children to be raised by a single mother. He wanted to be a present father figure in their life. And having been raised by a single mother, he didn't want to see that happen. So he was a present father figure.
Right. So he was a father. Or just a father figure. Or a father.
A father.
What's the difference between a father figure and a father? If he's taking care of the kids with a woman who gave birth to the kids, was he put the sperm inside of her with his penis?
Yeah. Yeah.
So what's going on here?
Okay, so that brings us to the present, Andy?
So this is my theory of what happened based on the evidence I have.
Okay.
I think that he did donate sperm.
Yeah, but did he donate?
No, he put it in.
Did he put it in a cup or did he put it in her vagina?
How did he put it in a cup? He put it in a cup?
Well, so that ties in now. Apparently the wife left because the friend cheated on her with Tyler to have this baby. Or the baby was a result of her having cheated. I don't know if that's true or not.
Okay, so I think that he basically had a baby with this woman.
Yeah.
And the wife was like, what? Like, this is weird. You guys are in a relationship.
I've been cheated on.
I've been cheated on. She pieced out. Then he proceeded to have twins with her.
Yeah. And they're like at this point playing house together pretty much.
Yeah.
Right?
They're just like, they have a family
But
now.
baby mama is having some issues with this because she does identify as a lesbian, right?
Okay.
Just throughout this. And also, wasn't he technically engaged to someone else?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. I can't even get into that.
Okay.
So I'm going to disregard that. So
I love how that his engagement isn't even important enough to cover.
Yes. So in conclusion, he had 3 children with this woman.
Yes.
And he was the father to all 3.
Yes.
Both literally and figuratively.
Yes. And now, apparently it ended by him going on this show, which, by the way, how is it possible that the show didn't dig into this?
Well, obviously these shows are having a little trouble with their background checks. Or maybe
this is next level though.
I'm sorry. Is it possible that they kind of wanted this drama? Because let's be honest, what's getting the most ratings? What's getting the most discussion?
Well, that's super messed up because his children
well, that's the thing. If this was in a movie, this would all be hilarious. Except this is real life, and there are 3 children who are being played as pawns in this game.
Yeah.
It's very messed up.
Yeah. And looking back, it's kind of insane to me that, I don't know, did he wipe his social media? Like, I don't understand how the background checking on these contestants would not figure out that he literally was a father to 3 children. And I don't know how much of a relationship they had, but it's just insane to me.
Maybe their background checks are like, yeah, exactly. Wasn't there some social media that showed him with a baby?
I don't know.
Maybe they're just looking for crime. They're just looking for criminal background.
Well, to me, this is a crime. How is this not a crime?
It is sort of criminal.
This is a full-blown crime. I feel like the judicial system has not caught up to having a name for what this is. This is fully a crime.
He is paying child support, or was supposed to.
Is he?
I don't know. I don't think he is.
Okay, so the plot thickens now because at the reunion, Ashley, she really kind of comes at people for the hate and whatever, and she's pretty much like, and I think that this is probably a good tack for her to take. You know, like I think that it's probably the smartest move for her to make if she's doing what I think she's trying to do, which is like protect them both. But I don't know if this is the right thing to be doing. She says, who do you think knows him and what's up better, social media or his wife? So she's pretty much got this like trump card of like, I know better than all of you. I'm married to the man I know.
Or who's trying to protect him better, social media or his wife?
Well, there's that. And then another thing to unpack here is the fact that they admit that the conversation they had on the sofa during filming, so this is the one where she's wearing the beanie. She says that conversation, so she's defending him here, where he said that she had asked, do your children know what you look like? Do your children know who you are? Do you know who they look like? And he's like, I think so. And it's like the wrong answer. She says that actually that conversation had been planned to have because she can't fake how she's feeling and she wanted it to be addressed on the show. So actually this whole conversation was sort of semi-staged, which I think Her defending this one thing about him was probably not a good call in terms of just like image management, because what it showed is a willingness on her part to keep up a certain kind of appearance and play a role and protect him at all costs. And so now we know that that's a role she's willing to play in this relationship. And now, to me, that colors everything else she does.
I totally agree. And in the end, no matter how you slice this, no matter whose side you take or what angle you're looking at this from, there were 3 children who had a father who was Tyler, who now don't have a father. And Tyler is acting like he never was a father.
Yes.
What is going on with that? Like, it's mathematical. Like, you cannot deny the fact that he has 3 biological children.
Yes.
Apparently one or 2 have his last name.
Yeah. One or 2.
Yeah, or 3. I don't even know. So many kids he's had. So many donated kids.
Oh my God.
But he was the father of these children. These children, now imagine them growing up now to be like, oh, tell me about your life. Oh, well, I had a father who I thought was my father, but then he went on a reality show and no longer was my father. Everything's cool.
I mean, that is without question the most messed up part. Like, if there were no children involved in this, then you could be like, okay, he's like a garden variety scumbag.
Sure.
But this level of, I mean, it's abandonment. These children will be 100% negatively impacted by this. Like, it's almost worse than if he had never been there at all.
I mean, this begs the question, is this the man that we want guarding our nuclear power plants?
I don't know if he's probably moved on.
Made up too?
Has he moved on? That's the question. Knows? Well, apparently there's a lot of other things too. Like, he's been evicted many times.
I learned a new word, hobosexual.
Do you want to define that for the Shandies?
Hobosexual is a guy who just basically shacks up with women to have a living situation. And that's it. Like, without that, he's homeless.
The whole thing makes me so sad. And I can understand why the Shandies along the way were like, well, there's this one contestant. It's not addressed fully on the show. Like, you should really look into this because there's a lot more to it than it appears. And it's just, I feel sick about it, because on one hand you want to be happy, like they were like, oh, we're so happy, we're so in love, they're showing all these selfies of them kissing, but it's like it comes at a cost, right? And I don't want to suggest that mistakes you can never find retribution, or that Ashley should pay for his mistakes and like just be alone or not with him or whatever. I just feel like there has to be some middle ground where he is still present in these children's lives. Like, it's not just financial support. Like, you can't just walk away from your children.
It's very wrong. This whole thing is very kind of sickening. I don't think it's a good look for the show. I also think it really, like for instance, when we recapped this late, right? So everyone was like, oh, you'll see. But like, why are there always these you'll sees in this show?
I actually think the fact that the show didn't reveal the true extent in the reunion of what is actually happening. They let Ashley speak for it. It was mostly her talking, by the way. Notice that?
Yeah. Oh, he didn't want to say anything. He's like, I don't need to defend myself.
Yeah, Ashley does most of the talking for the two of them. And then I love how the best thing about Ashley's love is the unconditional love. That's what he says.
Well, it's like,
I've never been loved this unconditionally.
Out damn spot. It's just like Shakespearean, like Lady Macbeth. Like, she's just going down with the ship.
Yes.
At all costs.
And the fact that the show let it just sort of end with that, to me, was self-preservational as well. It doesn't make them look good. Once you involve children no longer having a father, I think that it becomes extremely incriminating.
I think they wanted to sweep this under the rug as politically correct as possible.
And they wanted to let this be a he said, she said.
Yeah.
For sure. Okay, well, I don't know what else to say about these two. It's
pretty rough.
Yeah, it's hard to be like, oh, love them together.
No, it really leaves me with a very sick feeling.
Yeah.
Do not like this.
Like, I wish everyone the best in the situation, but the people I wish the best to are his 3 children.
Yeah.
Personally. Okay, so moving on, Andy. This is our palate cleanser.
Oh my gosh.
Is Garrett and Taylor. The main talking point with these two is the flapper party where he had liked and responded to a text from an ex or a DM from an ex, but then he had told her that he'd only liked it, and then told Ashley and Tyler that he had actually replied to it. And Taylor gets really upset. Honestly, I feel like the main takeaway here is that Taylor was a little drunk.
Yes.
And it's not that I think she was being unreasonable. It was more that I think that had she not been a little drunk, this whole thing would have been squashed much more quickly.
Yeah, would have rolled off your shoulders a little better.
They go to San Diego, meet her family, and eventually her father comes around, is willing to be on the show. Okay, so the wedding day, amazing drone footage leading into this. Fong gives Taylor a baby bonnet, her own baby bonnet. Taylor's dress is beautiful. I thought the belt was a good addition. I mean, what else is there to say about this? It was really lovely. Oh, it's on the 13th. They're getting married on the 13th, and both of their parents' weddings were also on the 13th. Whoa. That's crazy, man.
I guess they had the benefit of planning that.
And the ceremony, I got to touch on the suspenseful music. You know, when everyone's coming in and it's all suspenseful. Like, what's actually playing here? Is it just silence?
Oh, I don't know. That's a good question.
It's like, no.
They have the soundtrack. They're clearly not playing that at the wedding.
No, I would assume.
That'd be a hilarious thing to play at the wedding.
And during their vows, I finally put my finger on who Taylor reminds me of. And no, it's not me. I know. I've decided who it is. It's been driving me crazy all season long. And I'm going to see if Shandy's agree with me, because I'm really excited about this. Julia Stiles circa 10 Things I Hate About You. Do you know who that is?
I know who Julia Stiles is.
You do?
I remember her from Step Up.
Also great. But her character in 10 Things I Hate About You, there's something about the way when Taylor's giving her vows and she's she's so in love, but she's also like, I can't believe how in love I am. There's a sort of like, I'm this person. Like, I can't believe I'm this person.
Yeah.
And also just like a face structure thing. She reminds me so much of Julia Stiles. Like, I can't get it out of my head now.
I totally get that. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I'll see if the Shandys agree. I was really excited when it finally came to me. It was driving me crazy.
Oh, I love when that happens.
Oh, yeah. When it finally happens, you're like,
fine, it's release.
And now in the reunion, I got to talk about the outfits. Okay. So Taylor's wearing this, it looks like it's actually metal. It's sort of like corset top thing. It's asymmetric. It's very, I mean, to me, it's kind of red carpety. To me, it's leaning a little costume. But I mean, I respect the strong, bold choice. I think her styling was fantastic with the slick ponytail. And Garrett, I mean, he's had like a whole style overhaul. Andy, you were not into his style.
No, I wasn't not into it.
You said, I didn't realize he's now the 5th member of the Beatles at the time. That's what you said.
I mean, there's some really low hanging fruit here. I actually think it's all right. I think it's good. Yeah. I think it's so jarring. You know, it seems false to me, but maybe that's the real Garrett.
Well, it has been almost a year. And for me, I love it when anyone is inspired at any point in their life to explore their personal style and like express themselves with style.
Totally support
I think it's a beautiful thing.
I support it, but he has to walk through the gauntlet. He's gonna get dissed.
Oh.
But he has to accept it.
Yeah.
And then work through it. And then eventually people will accept it and be like, that's the real Garrett. And I feel bad for dissing you.
It was so cute when he was like, I now have someone who I like want to get dressed up for.
Yeah, that's nice.
Super cute.
She brought out the real Garrett.
She
did.
The
real Garrett is the 5th member of the Beatles.
Yes, exactly. And yeah, she also looks beautiful. I wouldn't have chosen this, but like I respect it. Like I respect the bold choice. It was very like dramatic, very dramatic. Okay, I mean, these two are great. It turns out they are in Fredericksburg. They have been in Fredericksburg, and they're going to relocate to DC because after all that chatter about San Diego, he couldn't handle it.
Yeah. I'm surprised.
I personally feel like the woman ends up making this concession more often than the man does personally in life. But, you know, I could be wrong. I'd be happy to be wrong. You guys let me know. But I think that.
So he was dangling the carrot.
I don't know. I think he meant to try and it sounds like he did. But ultimately, he was less able to handle being away from his parents than she is.
Right.
And I felt like there was a bit of sadness in her parents' faces. Yeah. You know, that was really the big theme for them. It's like Sandy, she called it her dream to move back to San Diego and have her family there. And I agree, you know, she said, we're a unit. What's best for us is best for us, you know, and I think that she's just a little stronger. Can I say that? I don't know. I was a little like sad to see this, but you know, overall they're just so happy. And I think it's a beautiful coupling.
I believe in this couple.
Oh.
I believe that they are going to last.
They are.
Yeah.
There's no question.
I want to hang out with them.
Yeah, they're cool, aren't they?
seem
It's so
cool.
nice to see a couple that you're like, not only do I think you're good together, they're like high level people. You know what I mean? Like they're intelligent and they have good banter together. Like it's just inspiring to watch a couple like that on TV and for them to meet, like even their energy with this whole thing is like, I can't believe that we're these people.
Yeah.
I love that. It's so relatable when you see someone on reality TV who's like, here I am,
Yeah,
like we're
it
getting
happens.
married. Yeah, it happens. It makes you believe in something.
Yeah.
It's really lovely. Okay, well, Andy, that is a wrap. For this massive recap. If you enjoyed what you heard today, you know what we will ask of you, and that is to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, follow us on Instagram and
TikTok,
leave us Apple and
Spotify,
podcast ratings and reviews, tell your friends, and generally do all the things you would do to support a podcast you enjoy. And we have a very special announcement, Andy. It's by very popular demand. We will be recapping season 3 of The Ultimatum as it's actually airing. We're not going to be a month behind on this one, but we've been getting requests for The Ultimatum for a very long time. So stay tuned for later this week for your first Ultimatum recap ever.
and we've never seen the show before.
There's also that.
So there's that.
Yes. Okay. So thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time on Dear Shandy. Ruby. Come. Yes. Oh, no. Stay. No.
Sorry.
Oh, she visited me at least. Oh, she wants to move. She wants to move. Let her move.
Go ahead.
Ruby.
Oh. Sorry.
Ruby.
Whoa.
Come on. Yes.
Okay.
Oh, yay. Okay.
We're good.
Thank you so much for tuning in.
Oh.
I will see you next time on Dear Shandy. Bye-bye.